Right. So we're going to have the natural solutions. And like I said, to truly heal, Susan and I believe that you can really zero in on a lot of this information and get your body to truly heal. Your body has an amazing ability to do that. And you just have to give it remove the offending items and give it the key items that your body requires in order to heal, especially the gastrointestinal tract. It's something that is regenerates every few days. It's a high turnover area. And so we're very optimistic that with our clients that they can really make some huge inroads if they do suffer with belly bloat, irritable bowel syndrome. So what are signs and symptoms of this imbalance? You'll see things like indigestion, bloating, diarrhea, and or constipation, and can be alternating. Commonly abdominal pain and discomfort, and you can have cramping, urgency to go to the bathroom, or you can't just wait. It's like right now. And oftentimes people might see some mucus in their stool, right? At least a couple times a week. And that's a sign that the lining of the gastrointestinal tract is some irritation in your body. Excess mucus is a way that your body creates to protect the lining, delicate lining of the intestinal tract. Food intolerances, right? And you're often, we see our clients often not able to 100% pinpoint what it is. Sometimes you can have it and you're good. And then next time you do it 2 or 3 days later, and you get some reaction. And so that becomes a little bit more of if you look at the next point, like nervous anxiety, melancholy, but definitely that nervousness and anxiety can even stem from uncertainty with which foods are causing you or where you are in your social circumstances or work. And so that's something. And when the gut is balanced and calm, then commonly people notice that they're less nervous, there's less anxiety, just in general, because of the gut brain connection, which we'll talk about in a second. Also, energy patterns, highs and lows. If you're seeing malabsorption, not feeling great, not absorbing properly, then you won't physically make good energy for mental and physical processes in the body. So you'll see this up and down pattern. Something that's very common. So it's touching on many areas in your body. It's not just about the digestive tract. So if we want to do a quick review of the digestive tract and what we need to pay attention to, firstly, the mouth, chewing food, digestion, which mastication is the breakdown of food. Saliva has digestive enzymes to break your food down further. Mixing and matching the lipase and the salivary amylase, these are to digest your fats and your carbohydrates or sugars in the mouth. And when you mechanically break your food down into tiny little bits, then by the time it makes its way down into the stomach here, you can see the pointer, it's coming down the esophagus into the stomach, then it's already, the surface area is high, and it's easier to break down sand than to break down pebbles. If you think of your food that way, if you don't chew 2 or 3 or 4 times, those are bigger rocks or pebbles going into the stomach, and then the stomach has to make hydrochloric acid to further the digestive process, and it's much easier to break down little bits of sand than pebbles. So when that happens properly, then further down your liver, gallbladder is making appropriate amount of bile, which emulsifies the fat, like detergent, breaking down grease in your sink. You're washing a pan, the bile is released from the gallbladder and it's emulsifying and breaking down so you absorb the fats properly. All of this has to happen even in the pancreas. You start to release insulin, but also bicarbonate and enzymes to further the digestive process in the small intestine. And this whole tube, roughly 15 to 18 feet from mouth right down to elimination in the rectal area, is this hollow tube, and there's all these mechanical processes going on to break food down, move it along, and absorb the key nutrients. When this works properly, you can't have irritable bowel syndrome. So when you're thinking of, then it works its way to the small intestine, large intestine. And oftentimes when people think then irritable bowel syndrome, it's the large bowel or the large intestine here where you can see the pink. This is what at the end, that's our last 5 feet of digestion. And this is where a lot of the problems occur. Well, because that's the last 5 feet, but everything has to occur properly up top. And too many times we focus just on the large intestine, a little bit of fiber. Am I pooping properly? And that's it. But everything is connected. That's why we want to highlight the importance and what we're going to talk about in order to resolve IBS. It's necessary to understand all the processes right from top to bottom. When we look in our clinic, we can look through a microscope at the live blood analysis, clean blood and normal blood, good absorption. You'll see this background, the liquid portion of the blood, which is the plasma, will be this black color, means there's less fermentation, less poorly absorbed food molecules typically getting absorbed through the small intestine lining into the blood, as opposed to this leaky gut pattern, it's called, or hyperpermeable gut pattern. You'll see a lot of these undigested fats and foodstuffs. And when it's ongoing and you test a person time after time, you can see that it resolves as the IBS is resolving. You'll just see a better, cleaner blood profile. So Susan and I like to include this in our clinical practice so as another tool to observe. And the last picture that we had, this is actually from a scan. We use a biofeedback device that shows the energy of the organs. And this gives us another easy profile to see which areas are most affected on an energy level. So to get into some solutions like foods that we notice that can aggravate, and people oftentimes don't realize because we're told eat tons of salads and lots of raw veggies and the more the better. If you have irritable bowel syndrome, the lining of the colon, which is sensitive, oftentimes can get this pot scrubbing effect, we call it. If too much fiber, especially the low water content veggies, things like kale, broccoli, cauliflower, they're not unhealthy, but in a raw state, the body has a harder time to break down the fibers, so that undigested fibers not being properly broken down is just working like scrubbing, too aggravating on the lining of the colon, and that can trigger things. So some of those high water content veg, they need to be cooked or baked, steamed, use the heat, use the temperature to break those cellulose, the plant fibers down more efficiently with pre-digestion by the cooking method, and then your body can typically handle it. If you're very hyperreactive or very in a state of high activation, then it's best to not have them at all. Just stick with cooked and or raw, but the high water content veggies like celery, and chew it well. Cucumber, things like that will work. You might notice too certain fruits and veggies with that quote unquote rubbery peel, apple, corn, peppers, eggplant, zucchini. There are many of them. People find that if they peel the apple, that they can digest it. If they don't, then they can actually find it aggravates their stomach. They might even see undigested foodstuffs in their stool if the bowel's working very quickly, stool's going through too rapidly. You can see lots of undigested food. That's a surefire sign of the IBS, and you want to be able to break that down. Gluten grains for many can be problematic. And if it's not, but you're having, say, whole wheat bread, but it has too much of the birdseed toppings to it with all those grains, which can be decent roughage for the average person without IBS, but for people with IBS, it could be that extra, bits of glass or grains of sand, think of it that way, aggravating the lining. If you know that you can't do well with gluten, then there's lots of other options in the gluten-free world, or you're just dropping grains in a hyper irritated state altogether, and maybe things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, like the other starchy veggies, rice even, can be the carbohydrate that you feel you absorb the best. Others might notice dairy products can be bothersome. Some don't find that an issue. So really you have to find out for yourself like what it is. We can talk a little bit about doing proper food testing. FODMAP, which are complex carbohydrates, saccharides are a fancy name for sugars. And FODMAP really stands for fermented oligosaccharides, so big sugars, disaccharide, which is two sugars, monosaccharide is single. All that to say that certain foods with these complex to smaller sugar molecules can't be digested very well with people with IBS. So by eliminating the foods high in them, you're giving your digestive tract a chance to break them down properly. And then those little sugar molecules are not working through the small intestine where the bacteria are working on them. They're fermented in the by those gut bacteria, and that's what's producing the gas. And in the worst cases, you're drawing water into the intestine. And as you draw more water into the intestine, that's why you get quick bowel habit too, and that's that loose to diarrhea. So it's highlighting, so it is a good strategy to eliminate these. Our goal, though, here at Living Science is to get your body so optimal that even some of these types of foods are not going to cause so much problems. This is a short-term strategy to help you regain digestive equilibrium so that your body can handle this stuff. Worst case, there are a few items you really never really want to handle, but mostly you don't want to get your diet so that it's becoming so restricted that you're down to one or two things. The goal is to expand it by improving your digestive function. Another thing we wanted to touch on, because it can't go unnoticed, we just see clinically so many people take different types of medications, and these commonly they're causing some of the digestive side effects, right? Known to, if you look in the literature, NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, even aspirin, can lead to IBS, right? Gut irritation, abdominal bloat, and pain. Antibiotics, that's a no-brainer. Sometimes you need them. However, post antibiotic therapy, you're getting rid of a lot of your good positive probiotics or good bacteria that keep the digestive ecosystem balanced. And that anything you're messing up the ecosystem, you're going to get these symptoms of IBS. Antacids from mild sort of Tums level up to proton pump inhibitors. Those are the major ones that can be used short term. Doctors are prescribing those, but they certainly block the acid production so significantly that it can lead to messing things up further down the chain. Corticosteroids also, they can be used short term, but know that they can mess with the gut. Also, many people are using antidepressants, and the antidepressants have such a profound effect on the gut, with the latest science showing that gut-brain connection. They're not just affecting the brain chemistry, they're affecting digestive chemistry. That can slow things down, speed things up. There's many different types of them. And so some cause constipation, some cause diarrhea, and depending on the dose. So just something to be mindful of if you are actually taking one or more of these types of medications ongoing in a high dose, it could be a main origin of your irritable bowel syndrome. So then you also want to make sure all the food things that we're talking about, you do very well if you have to be on these medications. So what do we want to do to help correct things that you can do on a daily basis to make your system run more optimally? Well, we talked briefly about the chewing. We like to talk about it like 20 times, and Susan gets a chuckle because I'm usually more like 30. And if you can be breaking the food down more optimally, it's such a profound, inexpensive way to correct your digestive woes. Also, eating in a relaxed state. The more calm you are, sitting, taking time, don't have a whole bunch of devices going and loud music and or the news on, anything that's aggravating the nervous system. You want to be in a relaxed state so your body can accept, digest, and absorb food properly. It's the way we're hardwired. You can choose different types of foods that can, like fermented foods in tiny amounts, that bring the probiotics into the digestive tract to help soothe it. As well, fermented foods can pre-digest. The bacteria are pre-digesting and breaking the fibers down on some of those harder to digest foods, for example, like cabbage, sauerkraut. So the bacteria, cultures were learned for thousands of years, if we can use the bacteria to help us, then you're going to absorb it much more efficiently. So it's like bringing in some buddies to help your digestive tract work. Um, Again, different fermented foods like kimchi is a little hotter, a different mix. Korean sauerkraut. There are different veggies, from beets to carrots. If you can handle dairy, then the culturing of dairy, some high quality yogurt or kefir, that can be very beneficial. Cultured soy, like miso, can be very beneficial as well. Just think of food then real, minimally processed, and properly prepared. So we've touched on this: proper heating, steaming, cooking for the foods that you need, soaking perhaps, even soaking things like brown rice for 6 to 8 hours, digest some of that outer fiber. And a lot of people with IBS find that they could handle the brown rice done that way, as opposed to just putting high bran, or the rice bran content can be hard to break down. And many people with IBS feel like if they can only handle white rice. So if that's true, have white rice, cook it properly, but give a shot like brown basmati or something, and then it can help to a little bit of that pre-digested fiber is also food for your gut bacteria, and it produces something called short chain fatty acids, which nourishes the colonocytes, or your cells in your gut, and that keeps the ecosystem healthy, so that reduces the IBS symptoms. Eat less complicated mixtures. Somebody eats chicken Alfredo with pasta and wonders why it doesn't sit great. That's a very condensed mixture of various foods. Just go simple, a bit of tomato sauce with pasta. And if you have rice-based pasta because you can't handle gluten, then maybe that's what you need. Eliminating any food intolerances or allergies that you know or don't know of. I consider it like it's best to get tested. We do some food intolerance testing here at our clinic. It's something to zero in and perhaps give someone it gives someone a more focused food plan when someone else can help guide them, rather than just trying things over months and months and months and it's hit or miss, and it just drives you crazy, and then you're stressed. On a lifestyle side of things, deep breathing, meditation, exercise, anything that can calm the nervous system, the de-stressing activities, which are very important to put your body into that relaxed, known as the parasympathetic state, so that your body can bring blood flow, full nervous system control to the digestive tract to optimally break your food down. If you're constantly in that running fight or flight state, eating in a rush, hurried, you will not send optimal blood flow and energy to your digestive organs, so you won't break your food down properly. And then if you don't chew it, and it's pebbles going into a compromised or not ready digestive tract, that's why things sit so heavily and you don't feel good. And food really then kind of becomes an enemy and not a friend. And then that leads to the IBS. Also, to things that you could avoid and or minimize: excess refined sugar, the foods and drinks containing it can definitely disrupt your chemistry. Even synthetic sweeteners too. Many people are using sugar alternatives, and some of the sugar alcohols, for example, people find they don't get absorbed properly in their digestive tract. That draws water into their colon, and it can cause a bit of loose stool, diarrhea, minimally bloating. So really, we're bullish on having more natural items. If you need some sugar, I mean, honey and maple syrup, monk fruit, there's lots of natural sweeteners you can use that brings vitamins and minerals with it, so that you get your sweet, but you're getting some nutrients that help you to digest and absorb what you're attempting to break down. Junk food, which is a broad spectrum, packaged foods, things with tons of additives, something to be mindful of. Commonly, people are just not getting real minimally processed food, and they don't realize that there's so many chemicals in the food for as preservatives. It's got to stay on the shelf. Colorants. Some of the food would look gray and you'd never consume it, so they've got to add colors in to brighten it up. And many of those things, MSG, monosodium glutamate, sweetener, they act as like a salt flavorant. You'll see hydrolyzed protein, hydrolyzed soy protein, oftentimes other names for it, can be a neurological irritant, and that can lead to loose bowels just on its own. Some people react poorly to that. Artificial colors and flavors, again, depending on what you're consuming, they can all be aggravating to our digestive tract. And would have, a lot of your IBS symptoms is just from eating too many packaged foods with tons of additives. Removing them could help resolve. I mean, it'd be quite a revelation, and some people just don't understand that. So some other solutions that we use here with clients that we just run through some of the basics to wrap up the webinar, because these work so well and we've used them for decades. What the supplements are designed to do, and various companies, just a few of these that we use ourselves. There's just many companies out there that are doing a great job. And the aim is to design supplement with some ingredients that, one, will soothe your gut lining, right? Two, decrease inflammation and intestinal permeability in the digestive tract. The permeability piece, when I showed the live blood picture, that's it. If you've got this sort of porous, you have selective control in the small intestine that allows certain things in and excludes others. And when there gets too much inflammation, they call that leaky gut or hyperpermeable gut, then the small intestines are getting a little bit compromised, and too many larger food molecules are getting through into the bloodstream. And that whole process sets off your immune system to go after the undigested foodstuffs like they're foreign invaders. I mean, that's what your body is designed to do. Problem is that creates an ongoing inflammatory process. So there are some nice herbal nutrients in these supplements that can help to minimize and improve the permeability in your gut. There are also elements that will normalize the peristalsis, and the peristalsis is the fancy name for the movement of your colon, of your intestines, moving food through so that you can absorb it and then finally evacuate or eliminate it. You also have some elements that will balance then the gut microbiome. That's the name for all of the bacteria, yeast, etc., microorganisms in the digestive tract. You have hundreds of billions, and we want to keep them in a balanced state. So you have more good guys than bad guys. And also there's elements we use here that will actually, we talked like enzymes, you can take from the outside. Your body naturally makes them, but you can use products that can to optimize and break down the foods. Some of the ingredients you'll see in some of these products that you can you've done or researched yourself. L-glutamine, right? It's one of the main. It's an amino acid. It's one of the primary fuel for the enterocytes, so the colon intestinal cells. And you'll see N-acetylglucosamine, right? Also important to help the mucin layer. That's the layer of mucus-producing cells that helps to keep things out that aren't supposed to be there, and also soothe the lining of the gut so that you can move it along. And that's why if you see way too much mucus in your stool, for example, then you're producing too much mucus, and your body is doing that for a reason. It's to protect you from invasive or intrusive foodstuffs. You'll see some Bacillus coagulans. These are spore-forming bacteria. Some of the newer, more popular probiotics are these spore-forming bacteria, and they're really beneficial in low doses, and they really help to establish a healthy ecosystem without having to take super high doses. And you'll see, symptoms like constipation, abdominal pain resolve using a few of these elements. To the plant enzymes, we see here, we use these things, the M7s by this company, Nature Farm. They're fantastic. And every foodstuff is broken down from fibers, like cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, all the sugars, the saccharides, the proteins, the fats. This is a great product to aid your body to break things down. You'll see we use this product called Hydrozyme, which has some betaine hydrochloride in it. So when people need to slightly acidify their stomach, they're not producing enough stomach acid, especially when they're too stressed. The stomach won't make enough stomach acid, then the upper digestive tract will not be breaking the food down properly. Then the poor old large intestine is getting hit with undigested foods. You'll see things like GI matrix, GI Soothe. They contain, licorice root, marshmallow root, slippery elm. These are all soothing herbs and elements that have been known for generations to help heal and seal the lining of the gut, make things work more optimal. So when you're looking at these types of formulas, again, there are many out there. We've zeroed in on a few of these. You want them to do one or many of these designated. They're designed functions, right? Soothing the gut lining, decreasing the inflammation process, normalizing rhythmic control of the colon, breaking the food down, and balance your microbiome. So it gives you, in summary, we've got the food habits that you can use to optimize irritable bowel syndrome, your symptoms. You've got habits like rest and relaxation, calming your body. You have some supplements that you now can use. And we really think that's the best way to go about it and get your body to heal itself. So we'd like to thank you, and we'll take questions in a second.
Thanks.